Okay, right, this is what we've probably been waiting for. Some news on Mo Salah. I think there has, over the last few weeks, been some pressure, some tension building, not only around Mo Salah, but also around Arne Slot and also around the wider squad. And I think we all knew that there was some sort of a split within the team. Some people who felt maybe a little bit close to Salah, some people who felt maybe a little bit close to the future of the club, and some people feeling split between the two because Salah was a veteran who'd just been re-signed and was maybe expected to oversee, should we say, the period that Liverpool were transitioning away from the club. But I would imagine that the frustration has kind of hit a fever pitch, or whatever you want to call it. It's probably not that serious. Mo Salah apparently saying on Scandinavian TV and apparently saying to some of the other press that he's played his last game for Liverpool and he's asked his family to come to the next game to basically wave him off. Now, first of all, this is a club legend that we're talking about. But you can harm your legendary status very, very quickly by moving away from the hymn sheet. And I think the frustration has always been with Salah, and I think the frustration from Jamie Carragher that he's shown lots of other people, and lots of other people kind of shutting down Carragher, sort of saying, oh, you wouldn't speak this way to other players. It's very difficult sometimes to speak about certain players, and I'm not saying I fully always back the way that Carragher speaks about him, but, the frustration has always been around Mo Salah. You do tend to come out publicly when it suits you, and there have been other times where it hasn't suited you much. The frustration is he's an incredible player for Liverpool. He's put down incredible numbers. He's scored incredible goals. He's done incredible things as arguably the biggest and most incredible player of the modern age for Liverpool in terms of output. Maybe not in terms of, cultural impact, even though his cultural impact has been huge, in terms of output. So Mo Salah leaving Liverpool, I think, would be monumental news. And the outcome of that will be huge. Mainly because, and let's just not, let's not mince our words on this, Liverpool will want a good price for Mo Salah if he leaves. He is one of our highest paid players. He has clearly still has got something to offer in the game. Some people are saying his legs have gone. I disagree. I still think he's very good. I still think he's very effective. I just think football has moved on broadly within the Premier League from him. Maybe not overall within Europe, but broadly within the Premier League. And I think that if he's to go to another league like Saudi, which is probably where Liverpool would look to move him because that's where we get the most money for him, then sure, we could probably get a good price and Mo would probably get the move that he probably wants financially, even if he still wants to remain a player that's kind of relevant in global football. The frustration is, I think it's had to happen like this. And I think Liverpool's problem has been that obviously Salah represented something that was huge previously at the club, and he was the figurehead of a lot of what Jurgen Klopp did. And he was fantastic for us last year, even though that wasn't Jurgen Klopp. It was still kind of, Jurgen Klopp legacy side. There was still some Jurgen Klopp legacy there. Salah was kind of having what I would call a last dance season. And the frustration was that he was putting incredible numbers in during a season when Liverpool moving away from that previous system. But he was doing incredible things, and Slot relied on him a lot in a lot of those games. The problem being in saying goodbye in football, because it feels so obvious, because it feels so emotional, because it feels so loaded, because it can feel so binary of like, you're useful, suddenly you're not. You're part of the team, suddenly you're not. You're a legend, suddenly you're moving on. In 10 years, you'll always be that legend, but immediately you're seen as kind of surplus to requirements or whatever you want to call it. I'm not even saying he is surplus to requirements. I think he probably did have a role within this team this season, but maybe the process has been expedited and sped up in the Liverpool world because A, he probably did seem to not prefer the Arne Slot tactics, and B, it looked as if he was struggling a little bit with this new system and play alongside some of these new players and maybe taking up some of those spaces some of those new players wanted. And maybe he could have played a bit of a James Milner or a Jordan Henderson role within this, right? And within that frustration is huge. But the comments that allegedly Mo Salah is making to a lot of people this evening is that he's played his last game for Liverpool, or he's playing his last games for Liverpool. And that assumption, therefore, would be that post-AFCON, we are where we're at. One of the other accusations from some people is, and possibly from Mo Salah, though I haven't read the quotes directly, is that he is being pushed out by Arne Slot. That would be a big indication of where Liverpool are at on Arne Slot, But B, I also think Arne Slot has been tasked with moving this team on. And I said this a few weeks ago, I called this on this very channel. Do not AVB this guy. Do not Andre Villas-Boas this person at Chelsea, because it would be a big mistake. Do not let players who have sway in the dressing room sway that dressing room away from a manager, because guess what? They're not happy with the way that things are moving and the fact that they have to move on at some point, even if it's to do with their speed of departure. Mo Salah, again, I'll repeat, is a club legend. And with that legendary status comes other responsibilities, one of which is becoming somewhat of a custodian of the club on the pitch and off the pitch. That's why I mentioned Milner. That's why I mentioned Henderson. That's why I mentioned a lot of these people. Milner more than anyone else, I think, in this. And kind of, there are other players you can mark in that. But what I mean by that is Milner took his minutes. Milner knew he wasn't going to play maximum amount of minutes for Liverpool when his powers were kind of beyond where they were. And he knew, I will get minutes as part of a legendary team. I will get minutes in training and time with all these players and to be part of this great group. And, that's a trade-off that I'm willing to make for playing time. Because some players, bear in mind, we see them for 90 minutes a week. We focus on it for 90 minutes. They're living their whole lives the whole time around that. And maybe Salah feels this frustration because there is an element, and I think there's a huge transitional element within this side at the moment, moving away from the previous era, but also a big wound in there of losing Diogo Jota, rest in peace, which is magnifying it, is amplifying a lot of these feelings, because you do begin to question your own life. You do begin to question your own feelings in these periods. And sometimes it can lead you to say, do, act in different ways the way you normally would. We've all been through grief in our lives, or anyone who's come to my age has definitely dealt with grief in different ways and in different stages and in different forms, for grandparents, for family members, for all friends, for all sorts of different scenarios, for pets, for distant relatives, for people you knew in passing. All of these different types of grief, all of these different types of challenge, I would say, amplify things. And I've said it for a long time on this channel. We need to give players time to move on, to process this. But the thing that will, again, Mo Salah struggling in this period, Virgil van Dijk struggling in this period, any legend struggling in this period, they're all humans. We need to treat them as such. And as club legends, we owe them extra respect in this time. So it isn't down to bringing the club into disrepute or whatever it is. Mo Salah leaving is Mo Salah leaving. And I want to give him the best send-off possible. If that means that we applaud him off the field, onto the field, every time he touches the ball during that period, I want to give him that send-off. Because he deserves that. Whatever politics are going on in this time, whatever it is, and that's part of the reason that Trent got his big send-off. We booed him in the second to last game, but in that last game, you knew that he was getting a cheer when he lifted that trophy. He got his moment in front of the Kop, from those Kop-outs, from the true supporters who kind of decide a lot of the way the stadium acts during the game. Mo Salah deserves that. So within this period, I'd imagine maybe there is a bit of a schism within the dressing room. There are some people who are acolytes of Salah and the previous people, and there are people who are accepting that there are moving elements and parts in this club. And this is explosive news. It's massive news at Liverpool. And the frustration will be that we couldn't give him the send-off that maybe he deserves because the club wasn't as stable and that he didn't pick up that new role that we needed to have him in this time. But my immediate response is, if you don't want to be here, if you are acting in such a way, if you are, I don't want to call it being petulant or whatever, because I understand there are some people who feel he is that way. If you are, using your power, using your sway, and even if it does go against what I want the club to have, do what you want to do. And because we are an institution, because we are a team, we can move on from that. And maybe some people did say, hey, don't say anything. You'll move on when you get your time. You'll get a moment to say goodbye to the fans or whatever it is. And this is a huge move. It's been a guy who's occupied the starting 11 for years and years and years. But if it is time to move on, let's give him those flowers and let's move on. It's not me being disingenuous or, whatever. It's me saying, let's give him the best send-off he deserves. It will be hugely emotional in that game, not least for Mo, not least for everyone else. He has been a club legend, and I imagine that he saw himself smashing through more records this season, and his frustration comes from not being able to do that. I think statistically, he has been one of the most frustrated players in the Premier League this season, not only in terms of, just take-ons and all these different things, but also in terms of assists and not being able to get those things off, not being able to gel with the rest of those players. And yes, there are new players that come in that indicate that Liverpool is moving on and is moving on. Wirtz, Isak, Ekitike, Frimpong, Kirkes, those are all signs that we are moving on. And Salah hasn't faded in his powers as far as I'm concerned, even if numbers-wise and output-wise he isn't the same. And maybe that's the easiest argument to make against Mo Salah, because a lot of the arguments depended on those numbers and those output and all those kind of things. But Mo Salah was much more to this Liverpool side. The frustration being, people will try to cast him in a certain light, and there will be 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides to this, but you'll get pulled to one of those sides. My side, Liverpool. He's been brilliant for this team. He's been prolific for this team. He has been legendary for this team, and he deserves a legendary goodbye. That's on the field. Off the field, do I love what he's done? No. Do I accept it? Yes, because I don't think he's going to be around that much longer to disrupt, or whatever you want to call it. And there are also moments where I've seen him taking counsel with some of these new players, still being part of that squad, still sitting on the bench and being respectful in that sense. But Mo also deserves the opposite of that, where it's like, well, he does deserve the ability to be able to speak out and put the record straight and, manage the image in the way that you want to manage it. I hope it doesn't degrade the amount of money that Liverpool can get. I hope it doesn't degrade the offers that we get. I hope it doesn't put us in an awkward position. I hope that in the coming days, if there is an announcement or whatever it is, we keep it respectful as a club. And of course, I'll be doing more videos over this in the coming days. It is huge news for Liverpool. And it is also explosive news for Liverpool. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you being part of this channel. Of course, get into the Discord down there, and we will be in there discussing that. There's a membership on this channel as well. And of course, there is also obviously the Patreon, which gets a better cut. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you putting your thoughts into the chat down below. Let me know what's going on. And let me know how you're feeling about Mo Salah at this point, whatever it is. And I'll see you tomorrow, probably with another video about Mo and the fallout from this, and probably with another video about what it means overall for the team this season. There are a lot of thoughts. There are a lot of big ideas. Chat to you guys in a while. Appreciate you. Much love. Goodbye.